this is the first installation of the video journal or diary part of this project, and I'm not certain how I'm going to use it, but it came to mind that it might be useful for me to talk about what my needs and experiences and interests are in making this video. And so that's what I'm going to do for the next few minutes. This is, I'm doing this the day before Antonia arrives to take care of Gaby when I go to a conference, and it'll be an opportunity for us to do a little talking about the project and also a little filming of her. So I wanted to make 3 points to begin with. The first is why I'm making this video. The second is another reason why I'm making the video, and the third is a kind of set of contradictions I think this raises that perhaps will become a focus of the video. I'm going to see if this telephoto works. Zoom thing. Yeah, I'll do that. Okay, pretty cool. So, first of all, when the summer started, I realized that it seemed imperative to me to make some contribution against this illicit and unethical and horrible war in which the United States is engaged, and in which I, like many Americans, people around the world, really actively protested against before it started, but around which I hadn't done much once it had begun. And my first thought was just to, go on the internet and find some organization where I could volunteer, and then I immediately had the thought, which I've had now many times as an activist over the last 15 or 20 years, which is that I have a distinct set of skills, which not everyone has, which is that I know how to make low-budget grassroots activist documentary, and perhaps it would be a better use of my time to figure out a documentary I could make than to stuff envelopes or go door to door. At the same time, although I know why I'm opposed to this war and have done a lot of reading about it, I'm not as informed about that as many people, including my sister. So it became pretty obvious that the right thing to do was for me to make an activist documentary about my sister, who can make an extremely articulate, very complex, rich, and well-researched argument against this war. And of course, she's also a better public speaker than I am. And so quickly that came to mind, that I could help her in her efforts with the skills that I have. And that's been going on, and we finished a short video that she'll be able to use with her book, The Bush Agenda. However, working with Antonia and living in the United States in the summer of 2005, I think the other thing that became really quickly apparent to me was that as a person who's been an activist since my 20s, first around feminism, then an AIDS activist in the 80s in New York City, then around gay and lesbian issues and anti-racism issues, and I have felt quite despondent and cynical and uncertain about how to act in the face of this war, quite uncertain whether our actions matter. I think certainly after the millions of people protested around the world and the war proceeded, nevertheless, I, like many people, sort of went into a paralysis. I think the general decline of the left and places in our culture where people whose opinions, like mine, are expressed in ways that are easily accessible has all left me, and probably lots of people like me, feeling really uncertain what is the right thing to do. And I think uncertain about whether the kinds of tactics that we were familiar with, and those that we invented, say with AIDS activism, with queer activism, were appropriate for this war. The forces against us, the forces of neoliberalism, the forces of globalization, the forces of corporations, the forces of the Bush family, and those incredibly wealthy people like them around the world, seemed somehow much larger than any small effort that we could make. Whereas certainly in periods and struggles in my life earlier, the small efforts felt very gratifying to me and successful. So I thought I might learn something from focusing on my sister, a person who is a professional activist and has remained incredibly enthusiastic and committed and positive about the role of activism in relationship to those forces that I've just named. So I thought it might be inspiring for me and for other people to see the portrait of an activist as a young woman in these strange times.